And as the Ukraine-Russia war completes 500 days, the threat to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant still remains. There are claims and counterclaims being thrown across regarding the threat around the power plant. Both the Ukrainian and Russian officials have escalated their rhetoric. Let's tell you about the claims by both Kiev and Moscow. Let's start by what Kiev is saying. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that there is a serious threat at Russia-occupied nuclear power plant. Now, it further says that Moscow is planning an attack on the nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, Kiev has further said that the Russian military placed objects that resembled explosives at the nuclear power plant. And he further says that these explosives are placed on roof of several power units at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Well, Kiev further claims that the only threat to the nuclear power plant right now is Russia and no one else. No one else is a threat but Russia. That's what Kiev is claiming. Zelensky earlier warned that Russia technically is ready to cause a local explosion at the nuclear power plant. Well, Russia has separately made its own claims. It has accused Ukraine's military of planning an attack on the nuclear power plant. Let's tell you about that. Now, Moscow has claimed that Ukraine plans to drop ammunition laced with nuclear waste. That's what it says. Now, the Kremlin has further issued a statement asserting on how Ukraine will attack the nuclear power plant under the cover of darkness on July 5th. While Russia says that Ukraine will attack using long-range precision equipment. Not only this, the Kremlin has also said that Ukraine will use Kamikaze drones as well while it plans to attack the nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military has said that it has destroyed a Russian formation in the Russian-controlled Makivka in the frontline Donetsk region, where Moscow installed officials, and media reports say that one civilian was killed and dozens wounded in attacks by Kiev. For more on this, we are now joined by Dr. Paul Dorfman from Paris. He's the chair of Nuclear Consulting Group and a visiting fellow at Science Policy Research Unit at the University of Sussex. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Dr. Paul.
Good morning.
Right, and Dr. Paul, with claims and counterclaims being strewn across, talk to us about how real is the threat of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant coming under an attack?
The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. There are 6 very large nuclear reactors and associated waste stores, especially high-level radiation spent fuel stores. Now, the reactors are in what's known as cold shutdown, which means that they're not operating. So in that sense, an element of the risk has been diminished. Also, the reactors have been upgraded after Fukushima. That said, the radiological inventory in Zaporizhzhia is very great, and an accident there would be a catastrophe.
Right, Dr. Paul. And talk to us about how, we've completed 500 days of the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war, and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant still remains an area of contention. Why is that?
Because it's a nuclear power plant. What we're seeing here is something that I and many others haven't wanted to discuss for a long time. In other words, the possibility of an attack on a nuclear power plant. Now, in an increasingly unstable world, we can really begin to worry about this issue in terms of remaining old reactors and any new plans for new reactors. What we've seen here for the first time is the very real risk, a very real threat of a military attack on a nuclear power plant. And this has very serious implications for nuclear worldwide.
Right, Dr. Paul, you speak of how there are real military threat around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. But what happens if it comes under an attack? How big are the stakes for both Kiev and Moscow in the ongoing war?
Okay, well, it won't be a Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a graphite-moderated reactor, and the pollution was thrown high into the atmosphere and could travel far. As I've said, the reactors are in cold shutdown. They're relatively well defended, but the key problem will be the spent nuclear fuel pods, which has a very great radiological inventory. So if anything happens, you could see a very severe radiological incident in Ukraine, potentially Russia, and in Eastern Europe. The consequences could be very great, especially considering the fact that Ukraine's grain feeds a significant population apart from Ukraine, in other words, in Africa.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul, for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us. We'll, of course, be tracking the story very closely right here. Thanks very much.
Thank you.